This evening, we have been blessed to have one of my dear friends and comrades, Brother King Solano's friend and comrade as well. Julius POCHIE Morris. He's going to tell us something about his travels and his vicissitudes through life's gates. Peace, brother.
Peace, brother.
How are you tonight?
I'm great. Honored to be here, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's good to see you.
Yes.
You're looking well as usual.
That was the plan, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, that's the plan. So what do you have in store for us this evening?
Well, really, what I get confronted with a lot is the children, the juveniles, their behavior, how everybody's saying they're predators, they're monsters, and I'm against all that.
Oh, do tell.
No. Well, in my history, I've been in institutions all my life. From the age of 12 to 55, I was never home a year. So I would come home, go back. So while I was in this last time, serving 27 years, I was hearing about the behavior of our young men and ladies, right? And I was feeding into it, you know, because that's what everybody was saying. The media was saying it. People I talked to, yo, man, these kids is crazy out here. So I was feeding into it. I came home, the Department of Corrections made a mistake. I've been home 17 years, still on parole, but they let me out.
Very commendable.
Right? So this time I was able to see these young children at 4, 5, 6, and they was perfect. You know, they was helpful, right? If mommy say no, they'll cry because they trying to help her do something. I seen them trying to carry bag. Boy, give me that. That's too heavy. Because they want to help. I'd seen them run home with their little report cards, happy. Oh, come here, let me, what you want to eat tonight? I'm going to do my homework. They loved education. I seen them grow up with that. I seen them walking through the stores with mommy, walking down the street, smiling and waving. A few years later, they was off the hook.
So what happened?
That's why I said, what happened? Because they came out with the right ingredients. They came out smiling, playful, happy, trying to help, trying to support. Then years later, they off the hook.
Would it be fair to ask or say that children do what's natural until they're taught to do what's expected?
Well, we know you are what you eat, right? So in the environments that we live in, they eating the material, the language, the behaviors of the environment, so that's what they try to emulate.
I see what you. This is a metaphor.
Yeah.
Because some people might not, catch on and say, "What is he talking about?" You are, and they're eating the. But
well, you eat whatever you eat spiritually, emotionally, physically. That's what you become.
So if you are what you eat, it can be quick, fast, or cheap.
Can't believe it. But the children, what they do, I go to young men and ladies, because the ladies are picking up the same behaviors that the environment is feeding them. And I go to them at 7, 6. Yo, when you grow up, what you gonna be? They could tell me. And 99.9% is something positive. I'm gonna be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I'm play basketball. I'm gonna do. They got something positive.
Let me stop you there, Coach. So what do you suggest to be the solution so that, intervention can take place and the change at a certain age where these our young people, which are our future, is at stake? What can we do to intervene?
Well, what we could do to intervene is mostly stop feeding them misinformation. As they grow, we as adults, when I was a kid, I'm 73 years old. The same misinformation I was receiving, I hear it being said today to them kids. So they start processing that, believing it, and they become, what they hear. Then you tell them, I don't care what you do, tomorrow ain't promised. If you constantly tell somebody tomorrow ain't promised, they just gonna live for today. They're not planning for 10 years. They're not planning for 15 years. They're not planning for 20 years. When I was a kid, I was told that by the time I was 18, somebody was going to kill me. I'm 73. I didn't plan for 20, 30, 40, or 50 because I was under the mindset that it's not promised. Tomorrow is promised.
Okay, we got that. We're asking you right now,
Okay.
this evening, right? What can we do to intervene? In other words, you're around juveniles,
Yes.
right? What do you do to help alleviate the problem that you just enunciated?
I teach them about hatred of self and kind. Right, when I first hit the street, I was like 11 years old in Newark, New Jersey. Right, I was on an area called Spruce and Prince Street. Right, when I first got out, they told me the guys on 17th Avenue was my enemy. Right, they 5 blocks away from where I was at. If we run into them, we'll fight, because I've been told they was my enemy. At 12, when I go to the youth house, I find out everybody from Newark come together. Because now East Orange, Irvington, Mount Clair, the other parts of Essex County is our enemy.
So now your enemies become your friends.
Yeah, the boys from 17th Avenue, now they on the team. When I went to Jamesburg at 12, I find out everybody from Essex County comes together because Mercer County, Camden County, Monmouth County is our enemy. Right? Camden was our so-called die-hard enemy. We're supposed to never get along with them. Don't socialize with them. So when I got them boys now from the youth house from East Orange, Mount Clair, they're part of the team.
Okay.
Because they're from Essex County.
Thank you.
When I got to the federal institution.
Well, we have a caller. Hold on. You're listening to Vibe Radio 609. We have a call-in question.
Well, somebody said they seen you on Facebook not too long ago. Was a clip of a young lady talking about the juvenile justice law that would be transformative. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I was on there because they was trying to allow the state parole board to hear juvenile cases. Right? Statistics have showed that 70% of the juveniles that went in front of the state parole board had got denied parole. Right? So I was totally against that. Right? Because when we was juveniles in them institutions, the institution warden, or whatever you want to call him, social worker, the teachers, they would hear our things in-house. But that bill passed where the state parole board ain't going to have no say-so in juvenile hearings. So that's what that basically was about. I also was on the Senate hearing. I testified in front of the Senate trying to get people on probation and parole to vote. That bill also passed. We got 83,000 people in the state of New Jersey that wasn't allowed to vote because of probation or parole. So that passed, and we're hoping that those that can vote will vote and understand how they do vote. So, yes, I've been involved with this for a while, and my goal is to save the babies, about the juveniles. Back to where we was at. When I got to the federal institution, right, they sent me out Trenton State Prison into the feds. So when I get to Atlanta, Georgia, I'm walking around with my homies, guys from Jersey, and they telling me guys from D.C. and Philly is the enemy, right? So, okay, who are all here? They start naming people from Jersey, and they named the guy from Camden that me and him had about 15 fights coming from Jamesburg to Bordentown. Wherever we run into each other, we used to fight because Camden and Newark couldn't get along.
So once again, the faces change, but the game is still the same.
Right. So I said, who? I said, he here? They, yo, man, you gotta, everybody from Jersey gotta stick together. So being who I am, when I went back to my cell, I told myself, I said, wow, if I go to Russia or Germany, any American I see, I'm going to try to communicate. If I go to Jupiter or Mars, any earthling I see, I'm going to try to communicate. So why is my enemy 5 blocks away? You know, they got us in a situation where we have to have an enemy, and our enemy is us. You know, and that's what I'm fighting against, trying to make them young men and ladies understand, because somebody live in another part of town, they on Section 8 just like your mother is. They hungry just like you is. They mad, they cry themselves to sleep at night out of anger just like you do. You know, but you being told he's your enemy because he lives somewhere else in the same city.
Let's go back to the juveniles being unable to vote. And in your opinion, how does that ill affect the future? With the caveat, is voting really the answer? Because some believe
Yes.
that voting is not the answer.
And I feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we don't follow that process to get the people that we need us, or people like us, into them spots to make them decisions, change them laws, change them policies, we always going to be the slaves of America. You know, we have a thing, you could Google it, called the Devil's Punch Bowl, coming out of Mississippi, showing what they did to the slaves right after slavery.
Yeah, you sent that page to me.
Yeah, now New Jersey has a Devil Punch Bowl, and it's called the Department of Correction. It's called the Juvenile Facilities. They snatching us up. My generation, we was the baby boomers. Well, like I said, I was 12, and everybody from my community, 90% of them was in the youth house.
Thank you.
The youth house was
Colin, what did you
overcrowded.
say? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
No, but we're trying to figure out what that meeting that you had by sitting in front of those panels. Now, Governor Phil Murphy signed something as far as the reform laws for juveniles being transferred. He said juvenile parole decisions to another panel, removing fines and penalties. I mean, how did that go? Can
Okay.
you explain that?
Well, what was happening in the state of New Jersey when juveniles was getting sentenced? They was getting fines, right? They was getting mandatory sentences. They was getting denials of certain things when they come home. If you get caught with drugs, when you come home and your mother or your grandmother lived in Section 8 housing, you couldn't live there. It wasn't an acceptable program, you know. So what the governor signed is allowing them no fines. They're not fining the juveniles no more. He said in the signing of the bill, if somebody come home and they done been home 10 years without no problems, their records get expunged, right? What they doing before that, juvenile records followed us all the way up. When we got to adult prisons and they go to a parole board, well, we see you got a pass or you did this, and they bring up the juvenile records, right? So that thing was to actually to help and save the juveniles from a lot of the hardships that my generation and those right behind us was confronted with.
What is the purpose of the parole board, speaking of which? And we understand that the state of New Jersey has two parole laws or bills that's in effect.
Yes.
And how is that unusual?
Well, the state of New Jersey has two penal codes that's active, right? And all the other states across America, when they eliminate one penal code to put in another one. New Jersey didn't eliminate it. They let it still run. So we got two penal codes that's active. What happened with the parole board, people on the parole board, we don't know who they are. They get appointed by the governor. You know, we got Reverend Slaughter out of Newark now. He was appointed by Mr. Murphy, but the other ones was already on the board when Murphy took over, right? So they get appointed by the governor. Guess they was his friends. Guess they made contributions to his campaign. Guess they went with his niece or his nephew or whatever. We don't know the reasons. But we know once they get in, they get a God complex, right? Because they control life. They control our dignity, our destiny. We go to court. The judge hear all the evidence in the case. Even if you plea, the judge hear all the evidence in the case. Then he asks for a probation report, right? That will give him your past criminal histories and behaviors. So he'll judge all this together and give you a sentence. After you do the sentence and you become eligible for parole, here comes the parole board. Right? When you go in them, the main reasons they use is the nature of your crime or your past criminal past. These things was already considered by the
mitigating
judge.
circumstances?
No, they don't know. You could be in Trenton State Prison for, say, a little bit of time, 15 years, right? You could have no reports, you know? And when you go to them, they don't consider that. They talking about the nature of your crime, which the judge already knew. Your past criminal history, what the judge already knew when he sentenced you. So they get the complex that they have to get some punishment out of you. I told some people last week, I said, if we was to take ex-prisoners and put on a parole board, the whole country would go in an uproar. But y'all taking ex-cops, ex-state troopers, ex-law enforcement, and putting them on the parole board.
So you make a good point. People have to be completely impartial and weigh all facets of the situation and render due justice, and that's not being happening in the parole board there. We have another call.
Well, you got someone asking about the adult prisons. They're starting to build more, from what I understand, they're starting to build more prisons in New Jersey.
Yes.
More adult prisons?
Yes. New Jersey, based on who you ask, is the third or the fourth smallest state in the United States. Right? When I first went to New Jersey State Prison, we had two prisons. We had Rawway, which used to be a reformatory, and Trenton. It was bad space in all of them. Now, during the 70s, New Jersey got on the campaign. You know, you couldn't run for dog catcher unless you was anti-crime. Everybody was anti-crime. The penal code that we have now was personal. Senator John Russo, he pushed for that because his father had got killed in a situation. So he made it personal. Because we had Governor Brendan Byrne that was getting ready to leave office. It was nowhere in the world King was supposed to beat Florio. Burns had overturned the death penalty, right? So Russo then went to him with this penal code because they knew Florio wasn't going to reinstate the death penalty. But what happened, King went. He reinstated the death penalty and all that. We have something now like 15 institutions that's controlled by the Department of Corrections. My argument always been, we understand the hustle. We was in criminal mindsets and behavior, so we understand the hustle. Right, y'all using this to give jobs. Human Services is the #1 employer for the state of New Jersey. Department of Corrections is #2. So if you stop crime, you stop a lot of people from being employed. Stop a lot of jobs. I tell them we recognize that we don't want you to make our children a target. If y'all want to continue this, stop making our kids the target. Stop snatching up our little boys, 14, 15 years old, waving them to adult court. You got a boy named Calvin Bass, well, a man now, because when he first came in, he was 14.
Yeah.
He was a boy. They kept him in them juvenile facilities, said he got 18 or 19 and sent him into a prison. He got 40-something years in. And he was 14 years. Yeah, he's home now, but that was, yeah. They was grabbing our young kids, and, oh, well, you got atrocious assault, we're going to waive you up. So at 14, you getting an adult sentence, you know? So that's what's going on in the adult prison system, right? They using us, it's a slave camp. You know, they talking about building new facilities for juveniles. They want to close Jamesburg. Yeah, I didn't like Jamesburg, but Jamesburg was fresh air. We used to come out to go to mess hall. We come out to play. They want to build indoor prisons with central areas. Yeah, if they have a yard, it'll be on the roof or a gym. They don't get the fresh air. They don't get the opportunity to run around. We was getting fresh food. They gonna get registered ferment food. Food that was cooked 3 days ago and frozen and brought to a prison and unfrozen when they want to feed us. You know, we used to get regular food. The whole state of New Jersey is anti-bully. And I agree. No, I don't like bullies. But New Jersey get bullied. On the northern end, we get bullied from New York. On the southern end, y'all get bullied from Pennsylvania. We the third, fourth smallest state in the United States, in between two giants. So what they do in their areas, we feel we need to adapt it. You know, and that's what's going on. We try to follow their laws. We didn't have mandatory sentencing till September 1st, 1979. Right? New York always had for damn near ever. So they copied New York and came with mandatory sentencing. You know, it don't make no sense if somebody commit a crime, you're going to tell me I'm going to give him 20 years before he see a parole board. We got men inside New Jersey State prisons who parole board parents ain't born yet. You know, they got 85 steps, 75 steps. You know, you got Lee Holmes, you got Bruce King. They were teenagers when they came in, 18, 19. They got 45, 48 years in. You tell me you think that somebody that was 18 at 60-something got the same mindset. The parole board keep denying them. The nature of your crime. The nature of my crime is never going to go away.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Are these isolated incidents that you speak of, or do you find they're racially equal across the board?
They're racially equal across the board.
Oh, how so?
Well,
Well, I say that keep in mind that the prison population today is dominated by people of color. So, you know, you have 85 to 90% black people.
Yeah.
And the rest is other.
Yes.
So in the society in which we live, how can you say that it's racially equal across the board?
All you gotta do is ask.
Populate the prisons.
All you got, well, I meant as far as us, but you gotta ask yourself, if somebody is 15% of a country population and they have to commit 85% of the crime,
That's
something
exactly
is wrong.
the point I'm getting at.
Yeah, something is wrong.
So it's not
Right.
racially equal across the board.
No.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's directed toward us. We're the target.
Mm-hmm.
You know, other kids, that's what the governor had said when he changed that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because other kids in other community, white kids basically, commit the same crime as our children, and they don't get waived up. They don't go into the institutions. They get probation, or they get counseling, or they get some other type of stuff.
Sounds like genocide to me.
Yes. We got a program in Patterson, New Jersey called Straight and Narrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a drug program, and it's in the heart of Patterson. Patterson is predominantly African Americans, a lot of us there. 90% of Straight and Narrow is white clientele.
That's exactly the point I'm
They
making.
go to the programs, all young children go into the system.
Go into the system.
Yes,
and
sir.
language in the system.
Yes, sir.
And when they do get out, the rate of recidivism is very high. Can you speak to that? And after that, we do have a caller? Okay. Can you briefly speak to the...
Yes, well, the rate of recidivism is supposed to be high. I went to Annandale at 16. I had no parole plans, so they kept me there till I turned 18 and paroled me to myself. They gave me $22 and told me to go out and be a responsible man.
So they set you up for failure.
That's
Hold
what they...
that point. Caller?
Yeah, someone's calling from Philadelphia is asking the question. What do we mean by raising up juveniles to adults?
Well, what we mean in New Jersey, if you're 14 and you commit a crime, they could waive you up to adult court. Up under juvenile court, the most you could get until you're 21.
Any
You
crime?
know, no. They use it for like the assaults, the robberies, gun possessions, anything that they want to label as a violent crime, right? So they waive our kids up, you know, whereas if they went to juvenile court for it, 9 months, they could be back on the street. But the prosecutor tends to say, well, I want to waive this up to adult court. And the kids, like I said, Calvin Bass, Sal, You know, he was 14 years old. He been locked up 4 years.
It's
Yeah,
1983.
yeah, because he got waved up, and I guess he got something like a 35 35 to life sentence, and he
35
been
to life.
yeah, and he
And they
been
gave
locked
a
up.
5-year hit
You know?
last year.
Yeah, that because of the nature of his crime.
So what it
Which
sounds
is-
like to me, and I mentioned before, is a
Did
direct.
that answer that for you?
It's a direct genocide. That was the caller, right? But it's direct genocide, you know. And people say, well, now you done went off the edge. But when you look at the disparity of the sentencing and which you enumerated, and you see how that ill affects our community, and it's calling. And when I use the word call, that's just a synonym for the word kill.
Yeah.
People of a certain racial, ethnic strain in groups in America. Everything is being weaponized today, from the food to the way you think. We had spoke about earlier. And again, as I said, you know what, you know, the problems we know, you know, and we talk about the problems, we band them about, and everybody gets stress and anxiety from the problems. But what can we do right now as a people, as a concerned group of men and women? How can we protect not only our children, but our future?
Okay.
You see, because the children are our future.
Okay. America is based on the concept of majority rule. That's what this country is established under. The majority rule, what the majority desire, what the majority want, that's what's happening. Right now, they have us, African Americans, believing we are a minority. Right? So if you think like a minority, you believe you're a minority, you ain't gonna expect to have no power or control. But what we gotta recognize, census time getting ready to come around again. When census come around, what do? They count all white folks together, as if Germans and Jews get along, as if Russians and Poles get along, you know, and they count them as a group. We the only nationality that have to be counted on its own, even with the Hispanics and the Latin community. El Salvador, Puerto Rican, Dominican, they count them all together, right? So what's done happened in America is us being the majority, and I can clearly show you how that happened, right? Because during slavery, master up in the big house. Now, he might have 8 family members living in the big house, but he got 150 or 200 slaves, right? That's why I told you that I need to go to the Devil's Punch Bowl about Mississippi, because it was a small city in Mississippi that had a population of 10,000. The day after slavery got abolished, the population went up to 120,000.
So then you're
Because
saying
there's
that the
more of
knowledge,
us than us.
so you're saying knowledge of the time.
Not knowledge,
Let me finish,
behavior.
let me
Go ahead.
You're saying knowledge of the time and what must be done and the way we act. Because the question was, what can we do? Right? And I know you are a veritable fountain of information. Right? And we all can give out the information. But what we have to do is enunciate a plan of action. And again, I'm going to ask, what can we do? So you're saying the knowledge that a person possesses should use that knowledge to wake up people that don't have the knowledge, and so to get them to acting in a forward manner, in a capsule.
Okay.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
All right.
What we could do is what I basically started with. Stop thinking somebody is your enemy because he lived 5 blocks away.
There you go.
And start recognizing that they are our brothers and sisters and unify instead of divide and conquer. You know, America is built and designed on divide and conquer. If they could get a city and get 10 different areas to divide, then there ain't no strength in the city. You know, so we got to do that. We got to act and think as a majority. A vote take control. When Obama ran, they were surprised of how many of us could vote and will vote. You know, if we want to stop gun violence, we got to come together and stop these bodegas and these little stores and us buying toy guns for our kids. Bang, bang, you dead. You know, you putting in a mindset of playing with guns, right? If everybody in America, all our college students, all our criminal-free students apply for guns, they'll change the gun law. You know, everybody that's eligible, they would change it because they don't want all of us to have weaponry. So what we do is unify up under the mindset of we are all in the same situation.
Absolutely. So
We're not different because you up the hill, I'm down the hill.
So it goes back to the old adage that we are our brother's keepers.
Well, unity is the key more so than we are our brother's keepers.
The whole
back to
adage.
unity is the key.
Let me finish my point, sir. The old adage of we are our brother's keepers is in vogue here, you see. We only have a certain amount of time. And the reason that, you know, I don't want to seem impolite to our guests, you know, because like I said, he's a veritable fountain of information, you see. But sometimes what we have to do is just go right to the point. And the point is that we need to change our thinking. And when we change our thinking, we change our activity. Remember, he who controls the diameter of your thinking also controls the circumference of your activity. So we want to thank each and every one of you once again. This has been our brother who shared a wealth of experience, and we're going to give him an opportunity to close it out in a few minutes. And we just want to probably have to do a part 2 of this later. What y'all think? I think so, yeah. We're going to have you back so we can do a part 2. Thank you so much. Once again, here's our honored guest, friend, brother, and comrade, Julius POCHIE Irvin. Take it home, please, sir.
Well, really, to close out, I just want to thank Vibe 609.
There you go.
And King Salam and the other brothers I see up here working with it for allowing me the opportunity to express a tiny little bit of what I know and what we are going to be exposed to. And my goal is, and it should be everyone's goal, save the babies. Stop allowing America to tell us our babies is born with a perception of crime, hurting each other, anger. Man, they're not. I see them. Y'all see them. You go past the little day schools, you go through the first grade, the preschools, kindergarten, you see them outside playing. They happy. They want to be happy. You know, the society that's so much against us as a people, because if we come to the realization and the understanding that we are the majority here in America, they get wiped out. That's what make America great about. You know, they saying they gonna lose the country because they know that we are a majority.